Hello, welcome to today's podcast. So, when we talk about health and wellness, often people want to talk about weight loss. And really, today I want to talk about nutrition because that's real important because you can be an appropriate weight and still be unhealthy. So, today I want to talk about nuts and the value of nuts and consuming nuts. So, we know that nuts are packed with nutrients, but we also know that nuts are packed with fat and calories. So, first, is there any health benefits in consumption of nuts? Well, there was a large study done by a group out of Harvard that basically looked at this question and said, okay, does nut consumption basically add value to your life or longevity, or does it just add calories to your life? Well, they looked at over 100,000 people and they followed these people for years. And obviously, during that time period, some of their subjects obviously died. Um, but they actually wanted to see what was the health benefits of nuts. And so in following these people, they basically found that the group that had to consume nuts daily basically had fewer cancer deaths, less heart disease, and basically fewer deaths from respiratory problems. So pretty significant difference in the groups that those that ate nuts daily compared to those that didn't. And when they looked at this, they actually controlled it for other lifestyle variables. So they found, whether you were old or young, this difference was still applicable. Whether you were fat or skinny, whether you exercised or not, whether you smoked or drank, all those things were basically controlled, and they still found that nut consumption, the group that consumed nuts actually had a decrease in kind of a broad spectrum of illnesses and death. So um, one of the concerns, though, in consuming nuts is that there is weight gain, and that's because we know that nuts are calorie dense and also have a high fat content. So today I want to talk about kind of does nut consumption cause weight gain, or how does it affect your weight? Well, there's been numerous studies that have basically shown that nut consumption is actually something that actually can decrease your weight, cause slimmer waist, less weight gain, things like that. But I wanted to kind of do a deeper dive into that. So the first study I want to just talk about real quick is a study related to the consumption of pistachios. And they basically, in this study, they took the groups and put them into three different groups. And one group didn't consume any pistachios, another group consumed about 70 pistachios a day, and another group 120 pistachios. And they were basically asked, really, don't change anything else in your diet, just add these as a snack in the afternoon. And they did this for 3 months. And the interesting thing is there was no difference in weight in these three different groups, despite the fact of the one group eating 0 pistachios, another group eating 120, which is, a significant amount of calories consumed each day. So this caused people to think, okay, how does nut consumption affect our weight? So other studies started to look into this. Now, this is being driven by the fact that there is evidence to support that nut consumption is actually helpful for your health. But a lot of people worry about eating nuts because of, like I said, the high fat content and the calorie dense component of it. So there was a published study that basically looked at 20 different clinical trials related to nuts and weight gain. And out of those 20 studies, there was not one that showed weight gain that would be expected. And what I mean by that is some of the studies showed some weight gain, but based on the amount of calories that the subjects were eating, they didn't gain as much as predicted. But then other studies showed no weight gain. So basically, one study, they had them add basically a handful of peanuts to their diet for a few weeks daily. They were eating these handful of peanuts, and they calculated that the patients or the subject should have gained anywhere about 8 pounds, but instead they only gained 2. And that was really confusing because if you look at, we always talk about, calorie deficit, calories in, calories out. So that doesn't really kind of fit those laws of physics, if you will. So They also looked at walnuts, and basically another study, they basically ate a handful of walnuts daily for about 6 months, and they should have gained about 12 pounds, but instead they just gained 1. Then another study, they had basically 2 handfuls of nuts, so that's approximately 320 calories of additional calories to their diet. And they looked at these, they followed these subjects, and they should have gained about 16 pounds based on the increase in the calories, but instead, really they only gained less than 1 pound. In fact, the women in this study only gained 1/4 of a pound. Another study, they basically gave the subjects 3/4 of a cup of pecans daily for 8 weeks. That's another 450 calories added to their diet, and they should have gained about 1 pound a week, but they didn't even gain basically gain any pounds. So, you know, why are these calories vanishing? What's happening here? So, other studies that they did then was basically what they call isoenergetic studies, which they adjust the calories that people are eating so that they're eating basically the same amount of calories, but what the calories come from may be different. So one group, basically they ate out of what's called the metabolic kitchen, where they were confined only eating a very specific regimen of foods that was calculated and prepared for them. And so basically these groups were divided into 2 different groups. Basically one group was getting nuts, and the other group basically was having other dietary components, but the end result, they both were getting 2,400 calories a day. So same amount of calories, but different method of getting those calories. Like I said, one group was eating nuts with the other stuff, and one group was not eating nuts. Well, and actually, when they actually looked at the data after this, they actually found out that the group that was getting nuts was actually getting about 100 calories a day more than the other group. So even despite trying to make sure both groups were getting the same number of calories, the nut group actually got about 100 calories a day more. But the interesting is the nut group lost weight, and so that's not supposed to happen based on what we read and are told, that the calorie deficit is really what's important. But it's starting to make you kind of wonder, is nuts doing something that also have an impact there? Another study, they basically gave 400 groups 400 calories of almonds or muffins, or half almond and muffins. And again, these 3 different groups basically were eating the same number of calories, but the method of getting those calories, whether it's almonds or muffins or a combination of both, was different. And the interesting thing is the nut group really ended up the same or lower weight. So nuts are having some type of impact that isn't really clear here. Another study, they basically gave a handful of peanuts to people, and they still didn't gain the weight that was expected. The interesting thing is they kind of say, well, maybe the nut calories don't count, but calorie counts do. Candy count calories do. And what they actually did in this study is they basically increased the subject's caloric intake, but one group of that caloric increase was via peanuts, and the other group was via candy. And they actually found that the candy group had an increase in their body weight, but the nuts did not. So same amount of calories, but method of delivering those calories was different. One had additional calories added by nuts. The other one had additional calories added by candy. So that creates kind of this confusion of what's going on with nuts. Another study, they looked at pistachios versus pretzels. So again, same amount of calories, but there was a significant drop in body mass index in the pistachio group. So while there's still a lot unknown, nuts seem to have some type of beneficial effect for us, both in our overall health, but just as important is that nuts don't necessarily cause a significant weight gain. Now, I do want to preface that by they are caloric dense, so the reality of it is you can consume a significant amount of calories eating nuts. And in these studies, what we're talking to is 1 or 2 handfuls of nuts a day, not a whole jar of nuts. But so there's a lot of evidence that nuts does not actually cause weight gain that you would expect, either no weight gain or minimal weight gain, or even some studies show weight loss. Seems to be one of the factors that they believe is happening is the nuts have an impact on basically boosting your fat metabolism or burning your fat. Some studies show that it may be related to the amino acid arginine or the phytonutrients found in nuts and green tea. But there's something going on with nuts that actually allows us to benefit from the nutrient content without gaining significant weight. So it's important to understand that nut consumption is basically associated with lower rates of heart disease. People live longer that have a daily ritual of consuming some nuts. And it really probably is something that we should incorporate in our daily diet and really not have a lot of fear as long as we're reasonable and in moderation of gaining excess weight. So the story's still going, but the evidence shows that nuts are helpful for you, and you don't have to worry about gaining a bunch of weight by moderation of daily consumption of nuts. So now, in the next part, I want to talk about, well, what are the health benefits of nut consumption? So join us next time where we're going to talk about now the health benefits of consuming nuts. Thank you.